Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. I'm John Doyle sitting in for Hank Cisco this week. Hank's a little under the weather. We hope all you folks keep him in your thoughts and prayers out there. But we're going to continue with the show at his command. And so today we have a really exciting show. We have David Farragut from United States Roofing here with us, a real stalwart here in Norristown. And we're going to spend a half hour talking with him about his business in Norristown, his family, and all the wonderful things he's doing in his life. And so, David, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
To get started, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this family that you have. You seem so proud of them when we were talking before the show, and I'd just love to hear a little bit about those folks who you're working with, I know, and who are your family.
Well, my father, Ken Farragut, started United States Roofing back in 1962. Prior to that, he was all-pro center for the Philadelphia Eagles. And after his 4 years, he started in '51, and he played football for the Eagles '51 to '54. And back then, the pro football players weren't making very much money. For example, my father in 1954 was all-pro center for the Eagles and made $8,500 that year. A little different than what an all-pro center would make today. But back then, all the players had to have another job during the off-season to supplement their income. So he got into the roofing and siding business through a gentleman he had met, Ambrose Callan, A.F. Callan Company. And actually, it was Town and Country Roofing and Siding at the time. And he actually started making more money selling roofing and siding than he did in pro football.
So he was playing football during the football season, and then the season would end, and he'd go back to the roofing business.
Exactly. And so he would go back to selling roofing and siding. And so then he was making more money than pro football, so he decided, here he is, he's 26 years old, he just made all-pro center, and he quits football, So the good news about that, he was able to retire from football before he got any severe injuries.
Oh, that's great. That's good.
And so that helped as well. But he got into the roofing business, and he worked for Town and Country. And then in 1962, he decided to go on his own in his own roofing business. So he started United States Roofing in 1962. We were located on Haynes Street in Philadelphia, right near where Martin Luther King High School is right now on Stenton Avenue. They actually tore down our building to build the high school. So we moved to, because of that, we had to move to a new location, and we picked Conshohocken. So we moved to 315 East 7th Avenue in Conshohocken in the early 70s. And we stayed there until 1981 when we purchased the Schuylkill Valley bus terminal building because we needed a bigger facility, and that's how that progressed. And so I'm the second generation of the Farraguts to be at U.S. Roofing, and now my two son-in-laws and my son are now an integral part, and they're working full-time at U.S. Roofing and are starting to take over the business at this point. I'm still very active, but they're doing a great job for me right now.
So you grew up in the business then. Do you remember there not being a U.S. Roofing?
No, I do not. I've always been around roofing all my life. When I was 16 years old, my father put me on the roof with the crews, actually doing the work. And then I went to the University of Mississippi. I graduated from Plymouth White Marsh High School in '67, and then I went to University of Mississippi. I happened to time it just right. I was there with Archie Manning. He and I are the same age. So that was an interesting football season for us. 4 years with him was great.
Yeah, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, and then I graduated in 1971, and of course, my entire time through college, my father said, "Hurry up and graduate to get back here and start roofing." Okay, so I knew when a lot of people go to college not knowing what they're going to do. I knew before I even went what I was going to do. So I was just mainly getting a business degree so that I could work within the business and take it from there. But in '71, I started selling for the first time, and he took me off the roofs, and I started selling roofs instead of putting them on, and we just built it up from there. At first, we were mainly doing residential roofing. That's all we did. Then in 1973, we decided to get into commercial roofing. So for a while there, we were doing commercial and residential. And then in 1978, the commercial was taking off so well that we got out of residential and went commercial only.
Yeah, that must have been a big transition for you folks.
That was a very big transition. And then how we got into that, we actually bought a small commercial roofing company, Cornell Roofing, a fellow by the name of Chuck Hartman. And he was very experienced in commercial roofing, so he ran the commercial roofing division. I ran the residential. Well, he ended up teaching me the commercial end of it,
right.
And I started taking to that more than the residential, and we ended up going strictly commercial. And it was a good move for us, and we went from the smallest commercial roofing contractor to the largest. So, you know, we're definitely the largest roofing contractor in the tri-state area.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so then you moved yourselves into Norristown in 1981, and then the business just continued to expand, I guess.
Yes, that's correct. We moved over here to Norristown because we were growing so fast that we needed a bigger warehouse. So this was probably 3 times bigger than our facility in Conshohocken. But we needed the yard space and we needed the warehouse space. And we continued to grow to where we actually ended up buying, there used to be a trailer park next to us,
right.
that we ended up buying the trailer park and building a building there. Then, if you remember in 1995, we had those heavy snowstorms, and Force Machinery and Tool Company was next door to us, and their building collapsed. So fortunately, no one was hurt.
Right.
But the building collapsed, so he moved to another facility, and then we ended up buying the ground, and so that was another acquisition.
So slowly expanding.
It's just slowly expanding over
things
the
that you
years as we grew. We needed to expand, and then eventually, of course, we bought the Conaluna building where they made the Conaluna spaghetti.
Yeah, I think we actually have a picture of the old Conaluna building.
Yes, yeah, I brought you a picture of the original Conaluna building from that picture is probably from like 1940. So it's pretty interesting to see what it was. And we brought it back to a pretty nice office building. It's really a Class A office space right now. So we really turned it into something nice. And right now we're probably about 60, 70% occupied. And starting May 1st, we have another tenant moving in, which will make it about 80% occupied.
That's really amazing at these sort of economic times we're in right now to have a rental space that's 80% occupied.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We had a tenant, ITS Neopost company, that was in one of our other buildings next to U.S. Roofing, which we owned, and they needed larger facilities, so they took our entire second floor of the Conaluna building, and so that helped us a lot.
Yeah, the Conaluna factory was a stalwart of Norristown in the old days. It's sort of exciting to know that a new company that's growing and a real anchor has taken over that space and kept that space there and still honoring the tradition. You know, the idea that you had that picture is really exciting.
Yeah, people were talking about tearing it down and getting rid of it, and we looked at it and we sort of like the old beams and things like that, so we decided to restore it and turn it into Class A office space. So
yeah, the architecture in Norristown is gorgeous, and those kind of spaces, though, as the town starts to fall apart a little bit, people want to get rid of them, but if you take a little time, you can rebuild them, make the place look quite beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when you purchased that space, were you considering it as a rental space? Was that the idea? How did you go about moving in?
Not really. We needed to expand ourselves because we were running out of office space. So my son actually came up to me because we were originally going to build on the site. We had the lot where Force Machinery was. And so we were going to build there. And I had an architect draw up some plans for a new building, and then my son said to me, he says, well, if you take that yard space, we don't really have that much parking. We really need the parking. So he says, why don't you buy the Conaluna building? And I said, well, it's not for sale. And he says, well, why don't you go ask them? So I said, that's a good idea. So I walked out of the office, walked next door, and asked them if they'd like to sell their building. We just ended up making a deal with the owner, and we bought it.
That's sort of the way things seem to happen in Norristown. My grandfather's Zumo's Hardware. He's
Oh,
the
yeah.
guys who started Zumo's Hardware, and his father took him down the street by his hand and walked down to the first place they owned down on Main Street, and they walked in and said, "We'd like to buy the building," and the guy said, "I wasn't thinking of selling, but that sounds great. Yeah, I'd love to own the space," and then went and got his the loan and started a small business in town. So it's a way to start things out.
Well, Zumos, we do a lot of business with Zumos.
I'll bet.
And we've done a lot of business with Zumos over the past 30 years. They're great people over there.
Yeah, the family business is sort of exciting for me to think about, and knowing another family is doing business in Norristown is great too. How is it working with family? Like, are any challenges that go along with that?
Well, there is, but knock wood, I've been very fortunate. We have another company, not just United States Roofing, at this location. It's called ADEC Incorporated, and we actually pour lightweight concrete on roofs. And what that does, this lightweight insulating concrete, we pour it on the roofs to slope the roofs. Most of these flat roofs are dead level. They hold a lot of water, so you can actually pour lightweight concrete on these roofs to slope them. Okay, so my one son-in-law, Mike Barron, he runs ADEC Incorporated, and we're all at the same location. And then my son Ryan is in the operations end of it. He's vice president of operations, where he takes the estimating and sales department, turns it over to him, and he gets the roofs put on. So he takes care of the supervision, the project management, and he's the liaison between us and the customer. Ryan Tyrrell, my other son-in-law, he's vice president of sales and marketing. Okay, so he does all the estimating and sales at the company. He oversees that, and I think that's helped it work. I don't have them doing the same thing.
Right.
My son's is operations and has to work closely with my other son-in-law, and the other son-in-law, Mike Barron, is in a totally different company. Okay, but it's roofing related though. We actually still work together.
Right, so they're interrelated with each other, but
Exactly.
they don't have to be on top of each other when they're doing the work.
Exactly.
That's great.
So it happened to, we're pretty fortunate that's working out.
That's great.
Now, another reason it's working out is my daughters ended up marrying their high school sweethearts, which is very unusual because Mike Barron and Ryan Tyrrell were dating my daughters in high school. They all went to different colleges. Both my daughters went to the University of Mississippi.
Okay.
So did my son. So all three. My father went to University of Mississippi. He was All-American at Ole Miss. Okay, and then he got drafted by the Eagles. Well, I ended up going to Ole Miss, and all three of my kids graduated from Ole Miss. Okay, which was interesting. And but my son-in-law went to LaSalle University, Ryan Tyrrell, and my other son-in-law went to College of Charleston.
Okay.
But somehow they stayed together and ended up getting married. And I have 6 grandchildren.
Really?
Yes. Okay. So all three, my 2 daughters are married, my son's married, and they all have children. And we're all working together. And but when Ryan and Mike and Ryan Tyrrell, my son-in-law, when they were in high school and all through college, during the summer months, I put them on the roofs.
Okay.
Okay, and they worked on the roofs for 4 years. So they really learned the business on the roof. Now, they had no idea that I was going to offer them a job.
Right.
Okay, they were just looking for some extra spending money for school. So they weren't even thinking, other than my son. I think my son had an idea. I wanted him to come on board. But my son-in-laws really didn't have an idea. They were just trying to make some extra money for college. So when they graduated from college, I'll never forget my son-in-law, Ryan Tyrrell. He says, he hands me a bunch of resumes and said, I know you know a lot of people. Could you hand my resume out to some of your friends? And I said, sure. I said, but can I have one? And he said, what for? I said, because what about working at United States Roofing? And for some reason, he didn't even think of that.
That's funny.
So he ended up, I offered him a job right away, and he took it, and here we are. 14 years later, he's still there.
That's great. What do you think's the value of sending those guys up on the roof? Like, what did you learn? What did they learn from?
Well, what it is, especially for estimating and even project management, you see what a roof is made up of, what it's all about. The camaraderie of the crew, the men working together, extremely hard work, and I wanted to see what they were made of, because this is extremely difficult work. 150-degree temperatures up on the roof in the the middle of the summer, tearing roofs off, putting them back. It's very hard work, and I figured if they can get through that, then I got some good people here, and they all did.
Tell me a little bit about the commercial business versus the residential business. That seems like an interesting switch.
It is.
What makes the commercial a better option for you?
I would say technology and different type roof systems, totally different. Most residential roofs are shingle type A roofs or small, flat, built-up roofs. The row home or townhouse type roof that's flat is very similar to commercial, almost identical actually. So we're mainly low-sloped flat roofing in commercial roofing, whereas most residential is a steeper slope shingle. But you're dealing with architects and roof consultants and general contractors a lot of times. For instance, we just put the roof on the brand new convention center in Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
We're re-roofing the Jacob Javits Center in Manhattan right now, which is probably it's going to be one of the largest green roofs ever done in the U.S. So we do some very, very large projects. We do work for all the universities, Penn, Drexel, Temple, Princeton, Rutgers. We work on all of them. We do all the hospitals, Thomas Jefferson, Presbyterian, Pennsylvania Hospital, Crozier. We can go on and on. Hahnemann, we do. And a lot of schools. One of our best accounts is the Norristown School District. I've been doing roofs for the Norristown School District for 25 years. And we did a project last year, Cole Manor Elementary. We re-roofed that last year. This year, we just got awarded. We were the lowest and responsible bidder for the high school here. We're going to be roofing this high school this summer.
The roof is only about 12 feet above us right now.
Right.
So it's exciting to know I'll have
hopefully
safe people up there
it'll
working.
be dry then,
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. So you just said something about green roof stuff. Are you involved in that type of work?
We are very big in green roofing, solar roofing, solar energy. We did the green roof, which has been highly publicized at the Philadelphia Electric headquarters at 23rd Market. It's a 50,000 square foot green roof where we put in a special waterproofing membrane on the roof, and then we put a leak detection system in case it would ever leak. It allows you to pinpoint exactly where the leak is.
That's amazing.
Because it would be very difficult to find it with all the dirt on top.
Right.
And then we put a drainage mat, and there's filter fabric and a root barrier and all kinds of layers, insulation board. And then they put some stone, and they put an engineered soil on top, and then they even have engineered plants that will grow on the roof that don't need a lot of maintenance. And but if you look out at the roof, you've probably seen the Pico headquarters at 23rd Market. It has the billboard around the top. Well, their lower roof is solid green. It's all plants. And the main reason they do that is for stormwater runoff. Your water and sewer department, our infrastructure is really overstressed. So they're trying to reduce the water that goes into the stormwater sewers.
And so the rain hitting the roof, going into that green roof, sort of maintains it there, and doesn't
it'll absorb as much as 70% of the water.
Okay.
And of course, there's design issues with these types of roofs because your building has to be able to take the weight, because it's a tremendous amount of weight. And of course, that's not our department. We get the engineers and architects to figure that out, and then we execute the job. But the green roof that we're doing at the Javits Center is going to be approximately 9 to 10 acres.
That's a lot of space.
On the roof. So it's like a field up there. And on that one, we're doing all the irrigation, because we put a drip irrigation system in, plants, and it's going to be beautiful when it's done.
And so people don't have access to those spaces really, though, do they?
Sometimes we did the green roof at the Philadelphia Free Library.
Okay.
And that one, they do have access, and they have paths walking around it so you can go look at it. Most of these aren't made for people to go up and enjoy it and walk through it, but mainly for the stormwater runoff. That was the main reason they did it.
And around when did that kind of work start for you? I mean, it seems like you've been in this industry for so long, you've seen a lot of things come along.
The green roofing, I think we did our first green roof probably about 10 or 12 years ago, believe it or not.
Really?
They're really popular now. 12 years ago, they weren't that popular, but we did a lot of work at Swarthmore University, and that was one of our first ones at Swarthmore University. Then they were like pioneers in that. They were really the first to get involved with that. But now it's becoming more and more of an issue. The cities, New York and Philadelphia, they give the companies a rebate on their sewer bill if they reduce their water flow into it. Okay, so you're actually saving money on your sewer bill because you're putting a green roof on.
Yeah, that's I guess pretty important. I know the county, Montgomery County, has been talking about doing some green roof work, although it's sort of not at roof level to try and deal with some of the issues they're having with their parking garage. So yeah, it's an exciting thing to become involved in.
Yep.
When you think of downtown Norristown, I mean, it seems to me that you own a giant space of Norristown down there.
We do now.
You know, that means you're part of the revitalization that's happening in that town. What do you sort of see as the opportunities for people in Norristown, the future of this?
Well, what we had going for us, especially down in our end of Norristown, is it's very close to the Blue Route.
Right.
And this is the best location in Montgomery County. Okay, we can be from that Blue Route. We can do work up in Allentown. We can be in Delaware, Wilmington. We can be in Center City. We can go out west to Downingtown, Harrisburg. We also do a lot of nuclear power plants, which has been on the news a lot lately. But we just did a huge job at 3 Mile Island in 2010, last year. We just completed it. We do Salem Nuclear Power Plant. We've done work there. We do Limerick, Peach Bottom. So we've done a lot of work at the power plants. Also oil refineries. You have to have special safety certifications, and
I would imagine you have to have that.
And your men have to be specially trained to work in these places. So we've trained all our people for that, and it's paid off. It took us a lot to get the training done, and you're not guaranteed you're going to get any work. So you have to spend money to train these people, hoping that you're going to get a job. But it has paid off for us, because a lot of our competition haven't done the training, and so whenever they bid those jobs, there's not 10 roofers bidding the job, so your chances of getting them are much better.
Yeah, and it seems like those kind of investments are just smart business. And then it sounds certainly like United States Roofing's been making smart choices all the way through. I mean, it's an amazing story of development from what was a man doing a part-time job between football to a company doing these gigantic work.
Well, one thing I've always done is I've always tried to stay one step ahead of the competition. And for instance, EPDM, which is rubber roofing, which is very big, started in 1978. Okay, and a lot of our competitors thought that these rubber roofs were no good, that they're not going to work, it's a new technology, don't use it, it hasn't been proven, things like that. Well, I liked it, I liked the technology, and I ran with it, and we were one of the first ones to take on these rubber roofs, and the first roof I did was at Montgomery County Community College on the Science Building in 1978. That was my first one. And so we started selling a lot of rubber roofs, and they were performing well, and they made a lot of sense, because the old type built-up roofs with the heat of the sun and the freeze thaw, they used to split and crack. Well, the rubber roof stretches, and plus it's a pond liner, so water laying on it doesn't hurt it as much. Okay, so it had a lot of good qualities to it. So we took off with the rubber roofing. Our competition didn't want to touch it because they thought it was a new technology. Well, we had a 2-year jump on them, so we started growing in leaps and bounds. Well, then they all saw that this wasn't going away, that it was going to be the roof of the future. So now they all started jumping on, but I had a 2-year jump on them, so we took a huge market share because of that chance that we took. And
just the expertise you had over those 2 years of preparation.
Exactly, and then other systems. We were always very, we were very aggressive, I guess you would say, and trying to look for different ways to be different than everybody else. And Just like in the early 90s, Carlisle, who was a manufacturer, came out with this new fleece back rubber system that you put down in a foam adhesive.
Right.
We were the first ones to go with that, and that is huge today. So we've been lucky enough to take on these new technologies before our competition has taken them on.
It sounds like it's just smart business on
Yeah.
your end.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly luck as part of it.
Yeah.
But, it sounds like you're making some really good choices.
And with solar and green roofs, we got into those early as well. We just did a huge solar job for, and then we don't actually do the solar, we do the roofs under the solar.
Right.
And one thing that people need to know about solar is it's mainly commercial roofing on flat roofs. Most of the time when you put solar panels on your building, if your roof is not in good condition, you have to put a new roof on to put the solar panels on. Because if your roof fails within the next 4 or 5 years, you have to remove all the solar panels to put the roof on, which is extremely costly.
Right.
So you're better off doing a good, solid 30-year roof now and then putting the panels on so that you don't have to worry about it and do it again.
There's a question that's been in the back of my head since we started. What was it like being the son of a Philadelphia Eagle, especially back in the 60s?
That was really something, really fantastic. And I tell the story, we used to live in White Marsh Valley across from White Marsh Country Club. And this was back right around the 1960 championship team. And my father had a cookout at his house. And he invited a bunch of the Eagle football players over because he knew most of them. And so I had my friends come over. I said, hey, we're going to have some Eagle football players at my house. Why don't you come up and you can meet them. Now at the time, I guess I was about, let me see, I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. So all my friends come up and we decide to have a touch football game on my front lawn, okay? So we picked up a team, and my quarterback on my team was Norm Van Brocklin.
Okay.
My friend on the other side, his quarterback was Sonny Jurgensen. Okay. My receiver was Tommy McDonald. He had Pete Retzlaff. Okay. I had Tom Brookshire on my team.
Okay.
We had Billy Ray Barnes. It was so. And I didn't really, I probably didn't get as excited about it as most would because I was always around it. My father would take me to an Eagles game when I was little, and we'd wait after the game when all the players came out, and they would all come over to me and pick me up. Hey, where's your dad? You know,
Oh,
so
that's great.
I just knew him, and I sort of took it for granted that I knew him, But looking back, it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that sounds like a great game. Probably
Yeah.
you got to play in that front yard.
That was a good game.
Yeah,
I wish I would have videoed it. At the time, you didn't think anything of it. Looking back, I wish I had videoed the whole thing. That would be a nice video.
It would be. It'd be something to have.
Yeah.
This having your father at game, you went down to games, I guess, on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So the whole family was down watching the
Yeah,
dad
I used
play?
to go all the time. Yeah.
It's a whole different world.
And back then, the owners gave my dad, even though he wasn't playing, they gave him free tickets to the game.
Okay.
And for the longest time, he got free tickets. And then as things started going with pure business and money and everything, they cut all that out. So.
Yeah, times certainly have changed
Oh,
since the
big
60s
time.
with sports, that's
Big
for sure.
time.
Well, it looks like we're just about out of time. So before we leave, I want to make sure we get some information out to folks. How can people get in contact with you?
Well, we're United States Roofing Corporation, and our phone number is 610-272-6600, or you can look us up on our website at usroofing.com.
So you're really a Norristown success story. I mean, you're a Philadelphia success story, but now you're in Norristown as an anchor here for us.
Well, next year is our 50th year in business, and 30 years of those 50 have been in Norristown.
Right.
Okay, and it's sort of coincidental that the city of Norristown is having their bicentennial next year.
That's right.
So Norristown's having their bicentennial, and we're having our 50th anniversary on the same year.
You see a future for Norristown here?
I really do. I mean, we love it. We're not going anywhere, and we really love the location.
Great. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
It's great to have you on the
Thank
air.
you.
I really appreciate it. And folks, that was David Farragut here. I'm John Doyle here on the Hank Cisco Show. I want to say some closing words for Hank, because I know he's sitting at home probably watching the show. Just remember, Hank, all sunshines make deserts. So even if we're having a hard time, I know how you're feeling right now. I want you to get better. So again, thanks so much for being with us today, and we'll see you on the next Hank Cisco Show.